Hello everyone, welcome back. This is I, Commodore Urban, and welcome back. And this is going to be part 4 of my read-along of the book Grandfather's Ship The S.S. United States by E.B. Fletcher. So let's go ahead and dive right into the last part where we left off at Chapter 8. Chapter 8. During John's spring vacation, he visited his grandparents for an entire week. They went to the Mariners Museum and spent hours looking at the ship models and exhibits. His favorite room was the Gibbs Wing, named for William Francis Gibbs, with so many items from the United States. Grandma Liz pointed out to John the various items that she and Grandfather had donated to the museum, including a life ring with the ship's name on it. John's grandparents took him to Nag's Head for lunch one day when they dined at Windmill Point. John was fascinated by the furniture, pictures, and other memorabilia from the United States. Grandfather introduced John to the owner of the restaurant. She gave him a t-shirt with a picture of the ship on the back of it. John took walks to the yacht club with Grandma Liz, and he and Grandfather got ice cream and sat watching the ships in Hampton Roads. When it was time for him to leave, Grandfather presented John with a framed picture of himself in his captain's uniform standing on the bridge wing of the United States. John wouldn't put it in a suitcase. He held it in his lap the whole way home. On June 26, Grandfather and Grandma came to visit. School was out and John was getting ready to have his 7th birthday. He was so excited because he and Grandfather shared the same birthday and they usually celebrated together. So many things were happening. Mama was getting ready to have a new baby. Grandfather and Grandma Liz were planning to take him to visit Grandfather's college at Fort Schnaler, and he had grown a whole inch. He was sure he wouldn't need his stool anymore. John had the traditional birthday party with his friends. Cake, ice cream, balloons, and games. After the party was over, Grandfather came into John's room where he was playing with some of his new toys. "Hey, sport," said Grandfather. "Having fun?" "Yeah, Grandfather," said John. "Tonight you get your new toy." Grandfather laughed and said, "Well, I don't know about toys, maybe a shirt or two. Listen, sport, your grandmother and I wanted to wait to give you our present, so here you go." Grandma appeared in the doorway and watched as John carefully unwrapped a rectangular box. Inside was a miniature model of the United States. John's eyes opened wide and he was smiling from ear to ear as he took the model from the box and gingerly held it up. Grandfather said, "You can always keep her company, John. With you around, she'll never be lonely again." "Oh, Grandfather," said John, still staring at the model. "This is like the one you have at your house in the glass case." "That's right. Now, John, this model is valuable and needs to be kept in a safe place. It's not a toy to be played with like your Hot Wheels are, huh?" "Yes, sir," said John. He stood up and saluted his grandfather. Grandfather chuckled and returned John's salute. "Oh," said Grandma, "I almost forgot. If you're going to be the master of the ship, then you need this." Placing a child-sized captain's hat on John's head. John grabbed his grandfather by the leg and said, "Thank you for being the best grandfather." That night, they all went out to dinner to celebrate Grandfather's birthday. Last year, for Grandfather's 90th birthday, Grandma Liz had a huge party at the Mariners Museum for Grandfather, and there had been over 300 guests. But this year, they were just keeping it simple. Grandfather got several shirts and cards, but the item he seemed the most pleased was with a belt with signal flags on it which spelled out his name. When they arrived home, John went up and changed into his pajamas and then went to the bathroom to brush his teeth. "Here goes," he said to himself. He leaned over to turn on the faucet without using his wooden stool. If he stood on his tiptoes, he could reach. He brushed his teeth and then picked up the wooden stool to carry it to his closet. As John picked up the stool, it flipped over so that the underside was facing him. He saw that there was writing on it. Written on the stool were the words, "Happy Birthday, Leroy John Alexanderson, June 27, 1912. John placed the stool on the floor and looked at the writing again. Then he picked up the stool and carried it down the hall to Grandfather and Grandma Liz's room. He knocked softly on the door, and Grandma answered, "What have you got there, darling?" "It's my old stool." "Well, it used to be mine," said John. Whatever do you mean? Grandma asked. Here is the illustration, of course. The Commodore giving his grandson a model of the great ship. I love that image, that's awesome. Anyway. Look, said John, turning the stool over and showing her the writing. Grandma smiled and said, Commodore, come here. John wants to show you something. Grandfather came out of the bathroom holding his toothbrush. What's this? John answered, you know, I told you that when I was 7, maybe I wouldn't need this anymore. Well, it worked. I'm 7 today, and if I stand on my tiptoes, I could turn on the water all by myself. Oh, said Grandfather, smiling. I see. Besides, continued John, this is really yours, see? It's got your name on it. Somebody gave it to you for your birthday. It says today's your birthday, too. I thought I'd give it back to you. Grandfather smiled at John and said, I was 2 years old when I got that stool. That's a very thoughtful thing to do. But I have an idea. What? Questioned John. How about you keeping it and giving it to your new baby brother or sister when they're born? John thought for a moment. I hadn't thought of that. That's okay, said Grandfather. It's Grandfather's job to think of things for you sometimes. Grandma Liz said, here, let me help you put that away and then I'll tuck you in, huh? Okay, said John. There we go. Chapter 9. The next morning at breakfast, Grandfather didn't come down to eat. Where's Grandfather? Asked John. Oh, he's still tired from last night's activities, said Grandma. He'll be down later, I'm sure. Mama and Daddy looked at each other. Grandma said, we'll check on him again after breakfast. He was up and down all night with indigestion. Well, said John, I've decided that we need to have a birthday party for the United States. Mama said, a birthday party? Yeah, she's old like Grandfather and he gets birthdays, so why can't we give her one? Mama said, honey, the United States was built. She wasn't born, and it took over a year to build her. Oh, said John, thinking. Hey, why don't you celebrate the date of her maiden voyage, suggested Grandma Liz. What's a maiden voyage? Asked John. It's the ship's very first trip on a major ocean with all the passengers on it, answered Grandma Liz. Oh, said John. When was it? Now, let me see. Oh, yes, July the 3rd of 1952. Hey, said John, July 3rd is next week. We can pack a picnic lunch and go eat with her. What are you going to give her as a present? Asked Daddy. She just likes the company, Papa, said John. She doesn't need a present. Oh, excuse me, I guess you're right. Mama said, John, we won't be able to get close to her like before. Sure we will. Grandfather will tell them we're coming. Sweetie, said Mama, looking apologetic at Grandma Liz, you can't go on the ship every time Grandfather comes to visit. You got to go on board as a treat, you understand? We can't impose on your grandfather. John wasn't sure what impose meant, but from the way Mama was looking at him, he thought he shouldn't push it. He pondered for a moment and said, could we at least go down and visit her on her birthday and sing her sitting in the car? I don't see any harm in that, said Mama. Okay, she'll appreciate it. Chapter 10. Grandfather stayed in his room sleeping a lot for the next few days. When he was up, he just wasn't himself. So Grandma Liz insisted that he go to the doctor, who was one of Daddy and Mama's friends. The next day, John was playing with his friends, Cable and Sid, in the backyard when Mama called him to come in for dinner. John came in washed up and sat down at the breakfast room table. Where is everybody? Inquired Jordan, looking at only 2 places set for dinner. Mama said, John, Grandfather went to the doctor today and he found out that Grandfather is very sick. So the doctor put him in the hospital. Grandma Liz and Daddy are with him. Daddy has called Nana and Bob to the hospital too. Why? Asked John. Can he just have a shot? Mama sighed. No, sweetie. It's more complicated than that. Grandfather's heart is sick and he hasn't been feeling well for some time. He has to have an operation to help his heart get better. Does he have to have the operation? Asked John. Yes, love, he does. I don't think I'm hungry anymore. All of a sudden I have a rock in there, John said, pointing to his stomach. It's okay, said Mama. You don't have to eat now if you don't want to. John sat in the chair for a moment, looked up at his mother and said, Mama, is Grandfather going to die? Mama hesitated for a moment before answering John. To be honest with you, I don't know. I sure hope not, but you do know that we all have to die sometime. It's part of living. What will happen to Grandfather if he dies? Asked John. Well, said Mama, his chemical remains, his body will be here on Earth, but his soul, his personality, the grandfather you know and love will go to heaven to live with God. You won't be able to write to him, call him, or email him like you do now, but you'll be able to pray for him and ask God to keep him safe in heaven so you can be together again someday. That's sad. John sat looking straight ahead out the bay window. His lower lip quivered when a tear streamed down his face. Mama gently turned his chin toward her, and John saw that her face was very sad. Mama, I think I'm getting raindrops. He scrambled up, and the Mama's lap began to sob. Mama rocked him and patted him and told him that she loved him. I don't want Grandfather to go away. I know you don't, sweetie. I don't want you to either. Mama rocked John till he calmed down. She smoothed his hair and gave him a tissue to wipe his nose and eyes. That evening, Daddy came home, ate some supper, went upstairs and packed Grandma Liz's smaller suitcase and took it back to the hospital. Grandma wouldn't leave Grandfather's side, and she was sleeping at the hospital too. Daddy said that Grandfather was in the cardiac care unit and that things didn't look good. Mama called the priest, Father Clark, and he came to the hospital to be with Grandma Liz. Mama cleaned the house and put fresh sheets on the beds and clean towels in the bathrooms for Nana and Pops. John stayed in his room looking at Grandfather's picture and the model of the United States. Later, when he was in bed, John decided to pray. He wasn't sure what to ask God for, so he just asked that Grandfather's heart would get better so that he could come back home. John told God that if Grandfather's getting better wasn't what he wanted, he would try not to be mad at him. As John lay in his bed, it suddenly hit him. I need to tell you the United States about Grandfather. She'll know what to do. Tomorrow I'll go and tell her. Alright, guys. I think I'll leave it off here, and I'll pick up maybe, I think there's 1 or 2 chapters left, so we'll pick up then. So stay tuned for part 5, guys. Thanks.